yourself. And I think we're good to go. You're muted, Pinky. Alyssa, you're muted. Okay.
All right. Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it into our website and podcast. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. In accordance with our group conscience on October 16th of 2023, we will also be posting our podcast on YouTube. We feel that this is an effective way to carry our message to those seeking recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. Tonight's recap will start on page 62 and end on page 63. And our study will start on page 63 next we launched, and it will end on page 66. The sentence ending, triumph were short-lived. Do we have any announcements?
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. And we have a group conscience coming up, I believe, July 8th. More details to follow. Pickle Family Reunion is coming up July 4th. Anyone who wants to come is welcome to join us for that. We always have a good time. And if you hang around in Tennessee till the next week, there will be our District 40 picnic as well. So I'd like to welcome anyone who's new, and if you are not a home group member of this group, but you like what we have to offer, just give us your name, email address, sobriety date, and phone number, and you're welcome to become a home group member and have a voice in what this group does. And it's pretty simple, and that's all I've got for announcements. So, good evening, family. Again, my name is Jamie. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic, and welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of silent meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Alyssa. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you're unmuted and sharing, as to not distract yourself or others. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God, let the craziness of the day drift away, and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And on that note, let's invite the monks in to do what the monks do best. Enjoy your time with God, folks. And if you'd like, please join us in our family's foglight prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Kat.
Good evening, friends. I'm Kat. I'm an alcoholic. I am your new pickled secretary.
Are you trying to read it? Are you trying to read it off your phone, Kat? I can take the screen.
Lisa. I've asked Lisa to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovered, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Lisa.
I can't seem to, I got it. I am Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime, but we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in the body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time at the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this chat, will be disabled during study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate, was as follows. From the forward to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed. And the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands, please, of people joining us for the first time?
I don't think we have any.
Welcome. No? Okay. And recovered alcoholics? Thank you so much. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? No?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Oh, okay, thanks. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail, delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in the chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase the big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in the chat. Thank you and enjoy your meeting, friends. See you next week.
Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you for your service tonight, and you as well, Lisa. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
So, traditions. Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed tradition
3,
and this week Miss Linda, or do we get a new
Art.
traditionalist?
Art.
This is starting tradition 4.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And this is a quick look at tradition 4. In the short form reads, each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. The long form reads, with respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience. But when its plans concern the welfare of neighboring groups, also those groups ought to be consulted. And no group, regional committee, or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole without conferring with the trustees of the General Service Board. On such issues, our common welfare is paramount. And autonomy means that we get to make our own decisions, and that the group gets to decide on how they want to run their meetings and what they want to do with group money and that sort of thing. And in the early days of Alcoholics Anonymous, there was a lot of controversy about this kind of thing. And in the 12 and 12, it tells the story of a young group and a promoter who got the whole town fired up, and they were gonna do great things with an alcoholic center, and they were gonna have education and meetings and detox and club, all in the same building on different floors. And this was everybody in the community was expecting great things from this, and the promoters of this project were going to ask the central office for a charter so that they could be a model that other groups could copy, and so they had big plans. And this place opened up, and it didn't take long before it degenerated into nothing but chaos. And so they learned from that experience. And one of the things that happened in the establishment of this center that didn't last long was that they had a list of rules, and there were 61 of them. And so when the whole thing fell apart and they had to disband, the promoter came up with an idea. He said this. He put this on a card. It's about the size of a golf scorecard, and the outside said Middleton Group number 1. No. Yeah. On the outside it read Middleton Group number 1, and when you open it up, it said rule number 62. Don't take yourself so seriously, or don't take yourself too damn seriously. So the 61 rules were superseded by this rule 62, and it's one of the things that has become kind of cliche around groups of AA, and some people wonder what we're talking about when we say Rule 62, but this is where it came from, and it's what it means is don't learn to laugh at yourself. And so, while even though the General Service told them that they wouldn't issue a charter, they went ahead with their plans anyway, and the result was they learned that you have to adhere to one of the other traditions that says any 2 or 3 gathered together for purpose of sobriety can call themselves an AA group, provided that as a group they don't have no other affiliation. And so we cannot, what was learned from this experience is that we cannot mix education, medicine, AA, and clubs all under one umbrella. It doesn't work. So as an AA group, we must stick to the purpose of our existence, and that is Alcoholics Anonymous and the recovery from alcoholism. So while we're free to make choices and decisions about how our group is to be run, we also have to be mindful of all the other traditions and not step on one in order to exercise another. And that's what I have for you tonight, folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Art. Thank you for your service tonight. Excellent. And now it's time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of things said in meetings that can't really be reconciled with the program as it's outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of those things we hear is, you're in the right place. So Kenny is going to come in and share with us from page 92 in the second paragraph. Kenny, what's the book have to say about it?
If you are satisfied that he is a real alcoholic.
Thank you.
As we study, please make use of pens, highlighters, rulers, so you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
And let me flip my page here. In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe, Charlie, and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we are going to start our recap from page 62, so Our Troubles We Think, which will be read by Miss Harry.
I think Terry was the study, wasn't she?
I know, but Lisa was Shay. Shay is going to be our recap reader.
Okay.
That's who it was. Shay is going to read our recap starting at page 62, so Our Troubles We Think, and end on page 63, We Felt at Once, followed by our study portion, which will be read by Miss Terry. She will start on page 63, Next We Launched, and end on page 66, Triumph Were Short-Lived.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium starting back where our study portion began, on page 63 tonight. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply one-sentence answers split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we are going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer form. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we have completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, observations based on what we just read. And if you have spiritual experience with this information, please, by all means, feel free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, well, maybe we'll do some crazy dance or something like that to get your attention and let you know that your time's up.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, i.e. your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous: sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group. You got this part, Pinky, or you want me to do it?
How we arrived at this point?
Yeah.
I can do it if you'd like me to.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
All right. So in January of 2020, this group started in Jamie's living room. I think there was 5 or 6. I was not here at that time, so that number may be off. And then COVID happened, and it went hybrid. And then it turned into full-blown Zoom. We do a 94-week study. So we go line by line, starting on page XI, all the way through 164, but we hit the spiritual experience 3 times, correct?
4.
And one of them we four. And then on that, we spend a whole night on the spiritual experience because of how important it is. So this is our 4th time through, or we're in the midst of our 4th time, correct?
3rd time through, 4th year.
3rd time through, 4th year. All right. I'm checking my marks because I'm taking arts. Don't take myself too darn seriously. So it's rolling in perfect for tonight. So yes, and this is my 2nd full time going through. And the way that this study breaks it down with the question and answers, it just gives a whole different light. So I have not been here for the full 4 years, but I can say 3. And wow, is this just an amazing study, and my growth in sobriety and being able to, trudge this road of happy destiny with all of you, and any newcomers that we have coming in. Our primary purpose is to carry the message to another alcoholic who still suffers. And that's what this group is about. If it can't be reconciled in the big book, well, you're not going to find it here because we reconcile everything with the big book because that is the answer to all of our problems, or the answer to our problem today. So sit back and enjoy the fun.
Hey, it's like the Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland. Before we start the recap, we could use 5, 6, 7 hands. We've got about 3 pages that we're going through tonight to be question answers when the time comes. And Pinky will be asking the questions tonight, and I will be doing comments in between. So I'll let Pinky invite her reader in.
All right.
I think it was Shay.
Yes, Miss Shay. I'm going to ask you to unmute and come in and read our recap.
Thank you. My name is Shayla. I'm an alcoholic. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without Him. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, we are His agent. He is the Father, and we are His children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all-powerful, He provided what we needed. If we kept close to Him and performed His work well, established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of His presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood Him, God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me, to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I withheld of Thy power. Thy love and Thy will of life. May I do Thy will always. We thought well before taking the step, making sure we were ready that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to Him. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made an effect, next, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once.
Thank you. Just secondary. Alyssa, Zane can't raise his hand. Oh, now he's got his hand up. So, okay. Very, very good. He wanted to read too. I'm sorry, Terry. Sorry for the interruption.
No. I was, Alyssa, do you need to introduce me or are we good?
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead. And Miss
Next.
Terry's going to read our study.
Next, we launched on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and critical step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to the causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. Being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stems all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore, we were burned up. Our grudge list, we set opposite each name our injuries. Was it our self-esteem or security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations? Which had been interfered with? We were usually as definite as this example. So I could skip this part, Jamie?
Yeah, we'll do it during the question part.
Okay. We went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived.
Thank you,
The
Terry.
end.
Well done.
Thank you, Miss Terry.
Welcome.
All right. So we have in the lineup, and I have Kenny, Linda, William, Lisa, Steph, and Zane. So if you would all like to unmute yourselves. And we will start with Kenny. All right, two-part question, sir. Now that we have decided to take the steps, how do we go about it? And what is the first step in carrying out the decision?
Next, we launch out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted.
Thank you, Kenny. Linda, three-part question. What was our third step decision? Was it necessary for the effect to be a lasting one? And when should we do step 4? Three-part.
What page are you on?
64. So our decision.
Top of the page.
Top of the page, is it this one, which many of us?
Though our decision, and
Okay,
you'll end at us.
okay. Though our decision was a vital and a crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us.
Thank you. William, was the alcohol our problem?
You're muted, William.
What was the question again?
Was alcohol our problem?
When we started out, we did one
Our
objective
liquor?
to this,
Our liquor.
our liquor.
64,
64 in there.
right, and look at the bottom of that paragraph, the first one, where I stopped it.
Our liquor.
I don't know, I don't see it. Someone pass on that liquor, and I catch up next time.
Linda, can you read it?
It says, our liquor was but a symptom.
Thank you. All right.
I'm looking at 64, and I'm looking at the, I see resentment is the number one offender. The show of alcoholism area. Yes. No?
It's up towards the top of the page, William, in the first paragraph.
Oh, top of the page. Top of the page.
All right.
I won't pass unless somebody else.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Lisa.
Oh, I see it. I got it.
All
Our
right, you
liquor
ready
was
for
but a
this?
symptom.
Yes.
Our liquor was but this a symptom.
Perfect. Okay. Lisa, what did we have to determine?
So we had to get down to causes and conditions.
Thank you. Steph, 2 sentences. What did we start?
Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4.
And I will be coming in with several comments throughout. And this is one of them. The word moral in step 4 means truthful and honest.
Thank you, Jamie. Zane, what happens to a business that takes no inventory?
A business which takes no inventory usually goes broke.
Thank you. Kenny, what is a commercial inventory?
Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and fact-facing process.
Thank you. Linda, What is the purpose of an inventory?
It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade.
Thank you, William. What is the main object of an inventory?
One objective to disclose damaged, unsalvageable goods, to get rid of them properly and without regret.
Thank you. Lisa, if the owner is to be successful, what is it he must do or he must not do?
The owner of the business is to be successful. He cannot fool himself about values.
Thank you, Steph. What do we do?
We did exactly the same thing with our lives.
Thank you, Zane. How do we take stock of ourselves?
We took stock honestly.
Thank you, Kenny. What are we looking for?
First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure.
Thank you. Linda, two-part question. What had defeated us? What do we consider?
Being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us. We considered its common manifestations.
Thank you. All right, William, what is the first manifestation of our character defects that we look at?
Resentment is the number one offender.
What is a resentment? Remembering a previous situation that made us angry and re-feeling the anger that it produced.
Thank you. Lisa, no. Am I on Lisa?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. What does it do to alcoholics?
It destroys more alcoholics than anything else.
Thank you. Steph, two-part question. From it comes what? In how many ways are alcoholics ill or sick?
From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick.
Dr. Silkworth believed that the chronic alcoholic's problems were physical, the allergy, and mental, the obsession. But we now learn that another part of is also being affected. The spiritual element of our existence is deeply affected. Lack of spiritual power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live and which would solve our problems. That is why this book is so very important. It gives us clear-cut directions on how to make that power effective in our lives.
Thank you, Jamie. And Zane, when we have a spiritual awakening or spiritual experience, what is promised?
When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically.
We are now given the clear-cut directions for taking the fourth step of Alcoholics Anonymous. As we study the directions, refer to the illustration on page 65.
Thank you, Jamie. Kenny, do we need a pad of paper and a pencil or a pen?
In dealing with resentments, we set them down on paper.
Thank you, Linda. What is the first thing we list on the pad of paper?
I have to pass. Let the next person take that, please. I have to pass. Sorry.
William, what is the first thing we list on the pad of paper?
In dealing with resentment, we set them on paper. We list people,
Nope.
institution, and put.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah, you're there.
Yep. Finish that sentence. Go ahead and read that sentence, William.
Read that. Where you want me to start? In dealing
We
with
listed
resentment.
people,
Institute.
In
the
dealing
ones,
with resentment.
the second sentence.
Say-
We listed people.
I see it. I can do.
Okay,
Oh, you
Okay, go
want to
go
do it?
ahead. Go.
Okay, we listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry.
Thank you.
Column 1, I am resentful at.
All right, Lisa. What is the next thing we ask ourselves?
We asked ourselves why we were angry.
Column 2, the cause.
Steph, what did we find to be true in most cases?
In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened.
Thank you. All right, Zane, we're now on page 65, and this is 2 sentences. So, what were we?
So we were sore. We were burned up.
Thank you. Penny, what do we then set down opposite the ones we resent?
On our crutch list, we said opposite each name are injuries.
Column 3, affects my.
Thank you. Linda, what do we list in column 3?
And you want me to read that from column 3?
It's the sentence, was it our...
Oh, affects me.
No, was it our self-esteem? It's still in the reading. It's not at the diagram yet.
Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations, which had been interfered with?
Thank you. William, how definite should we be? The last sentence before the example.
Oh, personal relationship.
We were usually as...
Yeah.
It's on top of I'm resentful at the cause and effects mine. It's that one line.
Cause and effect.
Now look up top, we were usually, right there.
I see. I don't see the second form here. I see all of that, but I don't see the other part. So
It's the last 6 words of the paragraph.
The paragraph affects.
Do you see?
William, it's right above the diagram of the example. We were usually as.
It's still in the reading. Yeah, it's still in the reading. It's that last sentence before the columns come. You see our personal or sexual.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, I got you. Sexual relationship with children. Who was usually as definite as this example.
Okay, thank you. I've got a few comments and I'm going to break down the diagram. First comment, we will be referring to this list again as we study page 67. I'm supposed to read the table, and we will be reading the table from top to bottom and then left to right, just as we should write it. This was also so we do not get overwhelmed and walk away from it. So we take all of the names of all the people that we're really mad at in the world, and we write all the names down first. In this particular case, in the diagram, it is Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, my employer, and my wife. And then we move into the second column, the cause. Why am I angry at Mr. Brown? Well, his attention to my wife. He told my wife of my mistress. I'd be pretty mad if somebody told him of my mistress as well. And Brown may get my job at the office. Mrs. Jones, she's a nut. She snubbed me. She committed her husband for drinking. He's my friend, and she's a gossip. My employer, unreasonable, unjust, overbearing. Threatens to fire me for drinking and padding my expense account. My wife misunderstands and nags. Oh, and guess what? She likes Brown too and wants a house put in her name. So I go to the affects my column, which is in the 7 areas of self that was listed a little earlier on the page. And how do these things affect me with Mr. Brown and the resentment and the cause? Then it affects my sex relations, my self-esteem, and I find the fear behind the self-esteem. Once again, it affects my sex relations, my self-esteem, and more fear. It affects my security, which also affects my self-esteem and more fear. Mrs. Jones, personal relationships, self-esteem, and there's always a fear behind that as well. My employer, self-esteem and fear and security. He's going to fire me because I'm stealing his money to go drinking on and padding my expense account. And then with my wife, my pride is affected. My personal sex relations are being threatened as well. And the security, and I find the fears behind that. Back to you, Pinky.
Thank you, Jamie. All right. I believe I'm on Lisa. How far back do we go in listing those we resent?
We went back through our lives.
Thank you, Steph. Only what counts in doing our inventory?
Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty.
Thank you, Zane. When we are finished, what do we do?
When we were finished, we considered it carefully.
Thank you, Kenny. What is the first thing that becomes apparent as we study what we have done?
The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong.
Thank you, Linda. Is that where most of us stop?
To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got.
Thank you, William. What continues to happen?
The unusual outcome was that people continue to wrong us, and we stayed so. Sometimes it was.
Oh, thank you.
We stayed so.
All right, Lisa. What was it sometimes, and then who were we mad at?
Sometimes there was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves.
Thank you, Steph. The harder we tried to have our way, what happened?
But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got.
Thank you. And Zane, you are going to wrap us up with the last question. Did we win some battles and lose the war? 2 sentences.
As in war, the only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived.
Yay, good job, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
so
Good
much.
job.
Thanks.
All right, so that concludes the study portion of our meeting. Now we open the floor for non-dental chair assignments.
Well, looks like Kenny's still got his hand up and he's unmuted. He's awful ambitious to share tonight. Oh, whoops.
How quickly that hand went down.
No, really, I didn't mean it.
All right, I'll kick us off. My name is Alyssa. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Thank you for letting me be of service tonight. Step 4 is my favorite step. No, I'm being 100% honest. And I will say that when I was first introduced to it, I didn't have an understanding of the process and what I was doing the process for. But through time, right, keep coming back, more will be revealed. don't give up before the miracle happens. All those little sayings. And I kept coming back, and, you know, today I use that 4-step process in my head. I don't count because it saves me from myself every single time. You know, I'll be 40, whoa, I'll be 41 in 9 days. Oh, anyway, I'm still young. But giving myself that grace that, you know, even though I'm in this, both feet, the sick me is still there. There's still parts of me there. So I have to live this way, one day at a time for the rest of my life. I get to do this. I get to do this one day at a time. And nobody is keeping score, not even God. And that's the thing that's so wonderful about this is it is progress, not perfection. And nobody was keeping score before I was recovered. That was just an ant running around in my head that wanted me to think that I needed to live up to some unrealistic expectations. But anyway, back to that fourth step. You know, this book it's a study guide. I'm so naive. And I want to hit on that tradition too, because something happened the other day, and if that's not an example of how this program works, I don't know what it is. But yes, the 4-step process I take with me all throughout the day, you know, because I'm still the problem. She's still here. You know, she isn't blatantly going and putting alcohol in her body. She is changing behavior, but, you know, for 38 years, I was running around sick. So giving myself grace, but that 4-step process, now that I have an understanding of what I'm doing there and how much power it actually gives me back. But I'm not saying that in a sick, twisted, egotistical way either. But that's where my power lies, is to see my part in every situation. Because that's the only thing I have power over is me. My reaction to things, and my actions. So, you know, I'm thankful for that today. And to hit on the tradition. So, I hadn't heard that story about those. I'm going to have to look that up again because I want to read that. But Rule 62, I'm very familiar with the Rule 62. Don't take yourself too seriously. I don't say that word because I have kids. You guys are in my ears, but I don't say that word. I'll spell it out too. But so it was Friday morning. And I had gotten out of morning meeting. I had even sent out like my morning texts, because I will usually, you know, send a group of people. I just pick, you know, my AA buddies every day. It's a different rotation. So I had sent out a Thursday greeting. and then I shared in this meeting. I read the daily reflections, and then I told everybody to have a wonderful, or I can't remember what kind of Thursday I told them to have, but something Thursday. And the host was like, all right, but it's Friday, so I'm going to say it's Friday. I'm telling you. I could never laugh at myself before. Or, this sick person, I said it out loud too, what my old behavior would do. I'm like, well, welcome to Friday, Alyssa. And those 30 people that you just sent a Thursday greeting to, it's okay. And I said this out loud. Because, and then the words came out of my mouth, I'm not gonna lie, because the old me would have made something stupid up and said, oh, my kid's got a hold of my phone, and just sent a mass text. Yeah, that's the kind of sickness I was in before. But to be able to laugh at myself over making a silly mistake like that would have never happened. I would have tore you down, the kids would have been 6 feet under, everybody would have had the fury. But today, I don't have to take myself so seriously. I can laugh at things like that. you know? So thank you, Art, for hitting on the traditions and reminding me of that, because that's a very pivotal moment in my recovery. Because I never used to laugh mistakes off. That would bring fear, anxiety, and definitely I would be meeting it at the bottom of the bottle. So I don't have to do those things today. I can live happy, joyous, and free. Life on life's terms. I mean, I can keep going because we had a loss in our family last week of a pet. And because of the tools of this program, I didn't go into the mess, you know, and I stayed aware and I was sober. And you know what I got to see? I got to see a 7-year-old and how she walked through hurt and a loss like that. You know, she identified her pain, and then she said to me, Mommy, I know Clover's with God. He's okay, but I miss him, and it hurts. And it was okay for her to cry, you know, and that's healthy. And those are things that I never would have, I don't get those things when I'm drinking. I don't get those things when I'm sick. Those are gifts of sobriety, you know? And I'm not going to leave Aaron out because they could probably hear me somewhere. I don't leave any of them out. But him, you know, what I learned about him through this situation is that he pays attention. He knows what makes you feel good when you're hurting. And, you know, those are, again, I'm living a life beyond my wildest dreams. You guys told me that I could live in the fourth dimension, you know, and I'm doing it. This program works, but you have to put in the action. I don't get these results by you putting in the action for me. I have to do it. I get to get up every day and do that. And it's moments like these, you know, why wouldn't I want to? So thank you all for being such a pivotal part of my sobriety, because last week, even though it was hard, it's one of the best weeks in my life. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Alyssa. Boy, and no hands. I guess everybody's healthy, huh? Art, you're up.
My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. You know, the fourth step, sometimes people complicate it, but it's really quite simple. And as we read tonight, it's a process of discovery. You know, talking about the commercial inventory, the purpose is to discover the stock in trade and to find the things that aren't selling or that are just cluttering the shelf and not moving, and get rid of them. And so the personal inventory that we talk about here is the same kind of process. It's a process of discovery. I'm discovering who I am and what makes me do the things I do. And it talked about we have to get down to causes and what is it, causes and whatever the terminology is, I'm getting it now. And that's what the purpose of this thing is. You know, I spent a long time in the early days of my journey in recovery trying to figure out what's the reason, why should I do this fourth step? Why should I take an inventory of myself? What am I supposed to get out of it? And it's right there all the time. I just wasn't looking at it. And so I was looking at various other books and, you know, there was a book around those days, and I think it's still around, but you don't see much of it, called The Little Red Book. And we had the 12 and 12, and we had the Hazelden Guide to the Fourth Step, and we had the, all this different stuff. And looked at it, and I looked at all of that, and I read the example there in the big book, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But before you get to that example, it tells us exactly what the purpose of this step is. And then it tells us very simply how we go about doing it, what we're looking for. And the interesting thing in my story is that while I was on this mission to discover the purpose of the fourth step, I'm communicating with my sponsor all the time, and I'll tell him something about what I'm thinking, and he'll tell me go home and write about that. And so I did that, and I'd come back and talk to him, read my writing to him, and he would say, pick out something in my writing, and he said, now I'll go home and write about that. And this went on for several months, and when I finally figured out that the purpose of this step is to discover why I do the things I do, he had me doing that fourth step all along. One thing at a time. And you know, our list of resentments is, we're not finished with it at the end of this step. Because there are several places further on in the book where it says, referring back to our list. And it's talking about that list of resentments in the fourth step. And the example there gives us 3 columns. That as we go on through the chapter, we're going to discover that there's a bunch of questions later on that gives us a 4th column. And some folks even break it down even further into 5 and 6. But at least 4. And it's all a process of learning about myself and about the spiritual malady that I suffer from. And then it says, when the spiritual malady is overcome, then we straighten out physically and mentally as well. And so when we I'd like to talk about my own experience. When I was finally able to take that first step, that's when my recovery began. Prior to then, I hadn't admitted. I hadn't given up the fight that I should be able to do what I want to do. And that's what got me in trouble. And so this process gives me the tools by which I can determine what a problem really is. And then as I continue in the taking of these steps, I discover what it is that I need to do with that knowledge. it's really a very simple process. It's just I sometimes marvel at the way people try to complicate things, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I see there are a couple other hands up, so I'm going to turn it over to somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Glad you're here. Thank you for sharing. William, come in and share with us.
Thank you. My name is William Michael Hornet. Tonight I'm a little bit off of focus. I don't know why, but anyhow, whenever you come to the reading, right, it give me time to reflect how it happened to me. One of the things that stood in my way in the beginning was that thorough. And what I thought about the word thorough, that I had to do thorough, but what I learned about it, I had to do it as best I could at the time I was doing this, because I was laying a foundation which for recovery, among other things, And I like the part where you talk about to look into my makeup and see what the flaws that stood in my way, And one of the things I found out, one of the biggest things I found out, man, I had a lot of fear going on. Fear with a success, fear with relationship, fear with everything all around, And yet it's still, as these things began to happen to me, I wanted more and more and more. It seemed like it was never enough of neither of those things, So it sort of kept me in there like that, what they call it, spinning around and around in a circle, and become anger and resentment towards other people because of that, So how did I get to that? I went to meetings, got a sponsor, got a home group, and I showed up day at a time and listened to other people. And as I listened to them, I began to identify what was wrong with me, But I was blinded by it before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. Matter of fact, I often say that I sit on the doorstep of anger, as soon as you say something to me, I went right into rage. So I thank God for being able to look and take an inventory of myself and not an inventory of you, and that only happened through showing up here a day at a time, and the spiritual part of it, definitely I had it all wrong when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and they told me when I got here, they say, whenever I said it, they said, how do you get this spiritual part of the program? I said, practice. They told me, so how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. And that's what I did, I did. And the spiritual part I'll freely give it to myself without looking for something back. And that started with making coffee a day at a time, showing up to the meeting and listening and get stuff out. And I truly believe when I began to know better, I began to do better. So for that, I'm grateful to be able to get to this. But for me, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, because I got sober at 42. So I had about 42 years, at least 37 years of that thing. I gave myself a break. 5 years old, bam, forget about it. But other than that, it was always that negative stuff going on in my head. So I'm grateful to be here today. I'm grateful to have the peace I do because of this book and the fellowship and God. Never to leave God out because I developed a good relationship with God. So we talk about the third step about this is a program for me. And once I got the information, I said, okay, I belong to it. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Glad you're here. Thank you for sharing. Linda, come in and share with us.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. Just want to say this is a very crucial part of recovery. This fourth step, it really is. It's a crucial part. There's nothing really to be played with. You have to take it seriously. It says it. Nothing works like thorough. It says nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. You know, not how great you may think you are, not how right you may think you are, how much that you feel you've been victimized, but it's about thoroughness and honesty, you know. And if we dig deep, if we do a deep dive, and if we actually use these columns, you know, the cause, the effects, what am I angry about, you know, and what's the root of it, you know, and then what is the effects, you know. I really need to take a look at when I get angry, I get resentful, I feel I'm wrong. How is this affecting other people? What is my reaction? What am I going to do? Am I going to actually react or respond? Respond is I'm going to stop, I'm going to think, I'm going to talk it over with someone. React is to just do the first thing I feel. I'm going to act on instinct. I'm going to cuss you out. I'm going to get even. I'm going to show you who, you know who I think I am. You know who you're talking to. You know, and that's pride. That's pride talking. You know, that's pride. You know, if our pride gets injured, if it gets poked just a little bit, it comes up in very different forms, and it really is not good. You know, a lot of arguments are through pride and self-will and thinking we're right and not taking time to stop. Not taking time to stop. Just going straight to, you know, assumptions. Not trying to take time to see what's really going on. Somebody had texted me something, and she's a young person. So I had to understand the mentality that I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a young person. And I did have to ask her before I even started, because she texted. I was not sure what she was saying, but the way it came across, it offended me. And I really didn't like it, and I didn't appreciate it. And in my mind, it's like, you're not going to talk to me like this. You're not going to text me like this. You know, so instead of me saying that to her, I just called her and I said, I just wanted to know, the text that you sent me, I said, before I make any assumptions, because maybe I read it wrong, can you just explain to me what you meant? And I said it in a very calm voice. I have to give her the benefit of the doubt. I can't jump to conclusions. You know, and I explained to her before, you know, I said, the reason why I called you, I said, because people get into texting wars, and it becomes very ugly and malicious. I said, so I'm not a person that gets into texting wars. I said, for one, because it's very childish. I said, I don't do that. I'd rather talk to a person rather than jump into assumptions, you know. And she appreciated me, you know, bullying her, but she still got a little perturbed because what she said was not, you know, it was incorrect. And she had to explain. See, this is the part, it's like, I'm not going to say where I cornered her, because that's not nice to say, but this is the part that was difficult for her, because then she had to explain what she was saying in the text. And then she said something else. And I don't know. Maybe she was cleaning it up. Maybe that is what she meant. Didn't matter. You know, but because I have better relations today with people, I'm learning not to jump to conclusions. I'm learning not to get into prideful, willful, you know, ego-driven arguments with people. You know, this talks, I like the fourth step in these columns, because it says, to me, it talks about the fears, the insecurities, the resentments, the pride, the ego, the self-centeredness. You know, there's a saying that says, I don't think much of myself, but then that's all that I think about. You know, I heard someone say that and I fell out, because it's so true. You know, it's so true. And if you read this, it's all of this right here. Here's attention to my wife. She's a nut. You know, unreasonable, unjust, self-esteem, overbearing, threatens to fire. It's all what this person, what people are doing to him. To him. Right? In this, he's a victim. He's playing victim. You know? And then I got to understand, Bill W. is describing a typical alcoholic and their reactions and their responses. And I see myself here. I see myself. You know, I really do. I see myself. You know, and I had a situation where one lady was doing something, and what she was doing, she wasn't going about it the right way. But because of her, whatever, her personality, you know, maybe that's how she deals with things. You know, and at the end, she had to apologize to me, you know, because her sponsor told her to apologize to me. And when she apologized to me, I quickly said, and I apologize to you too if I said anything to offend you. Even though she had whatever she did to me, I don't know. I could have said something back to her to offend her too after she offended me. So I made sure I quickly, apologize. I didn't say sorry, but I said I apologize, because I valued her as a friend. But we're no longer friends because, she got perturbed that whatever, things didn't go her way, and she had to apologize. But, when you're dealing with people in relations, it says it. We're not the acting director. We can't control people. People are going to do what they want to do. People are going to do things and handle things the way they want to handle them. And I've seen myself, backing away from people because I see they're not doing what I feel they should do, and blah blah this, and it's like, you know what, Linda, you're just gonna go. It's gonna be you're gonna go into the what do they call that? The black hole. You're gonna go into the sinkhole. You're gonna be spinning your wheels, because some type of way you're bumping heads with this person is just not gonna work. So just back up. Just leave it alone. You're not in control. People are people. People are gonna do what they're gonna do. And I like this because it talks about the relations. It talks about what we're feeling, what we're thinking. And then this is why we're doing it. And then this is why we responded. And here's our insecurities. Here's our fears. Here's the pride. Man, this is all me. This is all me. I like this because it makes me think again. Your thinking is off track. All of that is not going on. Maybe in your head, but in reality, that's not really what's going on, Linda. So step back. Somebody critiqued me about my resume, and they didn't do it in a very nice way. And I talked to another person, they said, well, they did it because they felt inferior when they saw all that stuff on your resume, And I said, yeah, but that's not how you talk to people. I've done people's resumes before, and I just don't talk to anyone like that. I say, hey, I'm going to style it differently. I don't say I'm going to fix your resume, because then that means that there was something wrong with it, it's broken. So I don't use that wording. I say I'm going to style it differently. And let's use this terminology. Let's use this terminology. Let's look up what's the best thing for a person in your profession to put on here. What's the more updated terms? I talk very objectively. And this woman, maybe she thought, I don't know. But I really didn't like the way she spoke to me on the phone and how she so-called critiqued my resume. And this is one thing that I was telling the other person, and I was talking to them about that situation. I said, I really got offended. I didn't like it, but I was professional. And I didn't cuss this lady out and tell her, you probably don't even know what it is a computer is. Probably don't even know your phone's a computer. And I wanted to just really rip her, but I didn't have to. I got to know when somebody, like they say, poking the bear. I got to know when somebody's trying to antagonize me. I have to understand that. I have to understand when someone doesn't have good communicative skills. I have to understand when a person is, I'm going to talk to you whatever way I want, mentality. It's good she did it over the phone, because if she wasn't over the phone, I would have stopped. I would have told her something, But at this age, I'm not getting into power-driven arguments with people. It's like, what? This is a person I'm not going to deal with. I don't beg anybody for anything, so I'm not going to deal with her. I don't even like her attitude. And then I was telling someone, I said, I think it was to more or less make me dummy down my resume. So then then she could turn around and work with me, because she probably doesn't have any jobs that are on my level anyway. And I understand what she was leading up to. And I've seen someone else, another recruiter, that did something like that, and it's like you live and you learn. You know what I'm saying? You live and you learn. And you have a choice. But, I didn't have to react. And I spoke with someone about it, and they said, sometimes people feel inferior. They're in positions, they're getting people jobs that they're not getting. And they're getting people jobs they're making that salary more than what they're making. It's like training people, and then you see them all get promotions. They may not, it may not be a fun job for her. And I said, yeah, it is better to understand than it is to be understood. I said, but I really didn't appreciate, what she did. And I thought about it, and it's like, is it my age? Oh, she's desperate. She's elderly. She's in that group. She doesn't have any value. And it's like, Linda, come off of it. You know, stop thinking. Don't read too much into it. Don't read too much into it. You know, at that point, you know, I can take suggestions, you know, and I changed my resume around. It's not easy, you know, it's not easy because I have so much stuff, but I understood, you know, like it says right in here with our ego and our pride, take some of that stuff off. You know, what I got from her destructive criticism, you know, what they say, constructive criticism and destructive criticism or feedback, her destructive, you know, it's like pride. Yeah, you got a lot of skills, but you don't need them all on there. You can talk about it during the interview. You don't need to do that. You know, it's not about your pride. So that was something that I had to take a look at too. You know, so I'm just grateful that I have this 4th step, and it really goes through it. It makes me take a look at myself in all situations, you know, because I'm not the end all of the world. You know, it's just not all about me. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Miss Linda. Glad you're here. Thank you for sharing. Rick, good to see you. Come in and share.
Good evening, everyone. Rick Alcoholic. I think it's awesome to be sitting in. Not surprised it's this group, though, sitting on this 4th step meeting. Everybody sharing their experience with it. You know, you know, I used to scoff or balk at. Resentment is the #1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. I don't scoff and balk at that anymore. It may not send me into a life of oblivion drinking, but if I don't believe that, then I'm in a program where my sobriety is not peaceful, I'm not humble, I don't have serenity. And that is another way it can destroy me. Staying in these pages, I love page 66 to the end of this chapter. I tell folks to stay in them pages, you know, because that's what I do now. I don't faithfully read them pages every day, but I stay in it. But since that's not the read tonight, I won't go too much into that. The design for doing the look at ourselves with the columns here, the resentful that, the cause affects my. I have done step work with others where they stop at this and they claim they have no resentment against anybody. And I've told them, well, one guy told me that you must be dead. You know, I said it's not possible. He's still not drinking today. I don't want that kind of sobriety. I want the kind where you know, step 10 tells me promptly look at where we're wrong, you know, because if I'm running around and today is a day I couldn't get a locker open that I keep stuff in that I need to get to, and it's about 30 years old. It doesn't look that way. The locks just didn't work anymore, and called a couple of lock guys, and they'll call you back. They don't show. You call a plumber. Some 2 weeks ago, guess what? My wife and I done fixed the problem ourselves. They never call back. You know, am I gonna stay in those MFers and call others, call them back, and because there was a time I would do that. I would tell them that they're not running their business correctly. What can I do today because of this program? I can walk away. And yes, I did get those locks to work by Googling and calling a hardware store and said, try this. When I tried what they said, it didn't work. I went back to it and I just hammered the key in there a little bit, tap it, and boom. Now the locks ain't good anymore, but at least the lock ain't damaged. I just have to replace those. didn't like it, but I was not living, I did not have a day of losing my mind and looking to blame others. And I blame this stuff here. I have to remember that, resentment is the number one offender. It's okay for me not to like things. But if I'm going to write down the names of guys I called today, reputable locksmiths and all that, so I never call them again because they didn't call me back today. I didn't do that. I'm not going to. In fact, I'm looking at a sheet of paper here. I didn't put down the name of the business, but I got his number. I'll go in the trash later when I'm cleaning up his desk. Who knows, someday I may call them again. I have to let today go. The problems have been solved. When I take a time out. Another one's supposed to tomorrow show up and do some stuff. Hey, can I do it Friday? I took away my video and told my wife, maybe I'm rubbing off on her, but she didn't freak out either. Okay, Friday, man. And I'm doing that, and I react that way because of this program. I don't, you're messing us up. We have plans for Friday. You said Wednesday. I'm not going there. It just doesn't happen anymore. So I just don't, promptly, I come back to this one here. We come back to this one here, and, I'm working with a guy, he's gotten to page 103, and, and then he sees the lost chapters, and, he doesn't have a family, he lives in he's been on the street for many, many years all his life. I don't have a family, I says, how are you going to help somebody else someday that does have a family, that comes to you for help? So we got to meet these. Okay. I like to read with you, Rick. Okay. To the employers, my employer's good to me. You'll be able to help on another guy whose employee ain't good to them. So for me, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. I think I can do a little bit better physically and mentally. Dealing with resentments, we set them on paper every single time. What the heck's the matter with you? Just write this down. If not, write it down, address it promptly. I asked myself, why are you angry? I didn't have to ask myself today. I didn't have to ask myself that today. Why am I angry at these folks? Oh yeah, we'll be there. We'll call you when we're on the way. Well, guess what? I don't know where about you guys. It's 9 o'clock here. Called them this morning. So thank you. This work will work for you. It's all about you, people. It's all about you, Rick. This is to get me better. I'm not perfect, and I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing. All right, Jamie, come in and share with us.
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. And first off, Pinky, thank you so much for stepping in and pinch hitting tonight because our other co-host is out ill. So thank you for stepping up in the last hour before the meeting. Greatly appreciated, and thank you to everyone for your service tonight. Glad you were all here. I think fear of the anticipation of doing a fourth step keeps so many people from doing it and from doing a fearless and thorough moral inventory of ourselves. And when I beat the hell out of myself, that is not a moral inventory. It's an immoral inventory. I'm just a sick person who's looking for a pathway to get well and heal. So, top of page 64. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, referring to step 3, it could have little, if any, permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Not 4.5 years later, not 16.5 years later, but at once. And in my experience, that has been critical in my life. And you'll hear some sponsors in Alcoholics Anonymous say, oh, we're only going to work 1 step a year. That means it'll take 12 years to get to step 12. The book doesn't say anything about that. Our first 100 took the steps quickly but thoroughly. So about 12,220 days ago, I'm with my sponsor who's here tonight, and we're shooting pool at the Alano Club where we went to meetings, and I'm whining about my life. I'm whining about my life. And in his wisdom, he looked at me and just simply said, you know, Jamie, you're not getting well any faster by procrastinating on your 4th step. You might remember that. So I went home, I sat down with the tablet and a pen, and I said a simple prayer. God, I know some of this stuff is going to hurt and it's going to be very ugly, but in order to be the person you want me to be, please show me the truth. It's just that simple. I started on that night. I finished it the next night, and I had a pretty size fair list. And 3 days later, was in his garage taking my 5th step. It has not been necessary for me to pick up a drink or carry a resentment in my life since then. It took a while to let go of a couple of the resentments, but that has been through a process of forgiveness. And it doesn't matter whether they know I forgive them or not. What matters is I know that I forgive them. And for me to be able to give forgiveness is receiving the grace that God has given me. And to forgive is to grant grace in the life of others. So this step, back to step 3 for a second, vital and crucial decision. But how do I turn my will and my life over to someone that I don't understand? Is the real question. And the 4th step becomes the first action that I take. Other than the prayer. The prayer is just the announcement of the decision. This becomes the first action that I take to turning my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him. And it is the process of steps 4, 5, 6, and 7 that actually do that. And in the process of it, I am building a relationship with God. So many of us look at the diagram on page 65 and we think, that's it. I can talk about who I'm mad about. I've been talking about who I'm mad at for the last 45 years. So it's easy to talk about who I'm mad at. And I've been telling the whole world what they done to me, so that part's easy too. Uh-oh. Column 3 affects my. That becomes a little more difficult. Because if I admit that it affects my self-esteem, then I have to admit that it affects my pride as well. And my pride is my ego. Did it affect my sex relationships? Absolutely. Did it affect every personal relationship that I had? Absolutely. You know, until we get to the sex inventory part of our 4th step, this relationship part isn't about the act of sex. Even that is not about the act of sex. It's about how we interact with one another. Male, female, same sex, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. That's your business, not mine. Well, my business is learning how to interact. And where do we get most of those first examples in our lives? From our moms and dads and aunts and uncles and grandparents and so on. And let's face it, some of us grew up in some fairly sick homes, so we didn't have real good, healthy examples. So as I look at how all of these things affect me, and if it affects my self-esteem, define what my self-esteem is. It means I don't have a very good opinion of myself. I don't see myself in a very good light. I am not comfortable in my own skin. What's the fear that goes with that? Because it lists fear, but you know, we use fear as a blanket word. But what's the fear that goes with that? The fear is, you're not going to love me. And you're going to leave me, and I'm going to be by myself, and I'm going to sit in the emotional pain of being by myself. And if I'm by myself long enough sitting in that pain, I fear I'm going to drink. I don't want to drink because I know drinking means to die. And I don't know what exists after death. And then I start fearing that there's no God, so I go back to self-reliance. And that has failed me. Hell, self-reliance is how I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous. So this step becomes a practice in the first part of me truly becoming God-reliant in my sobriety. And by the way, those 3 columns that it talks about, that's just the resentment part of it. There's 4 more times that we are suggested to write. And I'm going to find my defects of character in the next column afterwards. And then I'm going to look at who I harmed. And I'm going to look at my fears. And then I'm going to look at my sex inventory. And the first 3 parts of this are only about the resentment, and the remaining 4 parts are all about me and my behaviors and my thoughts and my actions. And that's what I have to become responsible for. That's what I have to become accountable to. And that is the stuff that I'm going to have to make amends for. And we so often live in the fear of, oh my God, I can't do that. What are they going to think of me? Does it really matter? Really, what the hell do they think of me now? The way that I've been acting for the last 40 years. In my case, it was 33, because I got to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 33. There was I found this part on page 66 very profound. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought, oh, is this me trying to be the guy on page 61 and 62? The more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victors seemed to win. Only moments of triumph were short-lived. It is the other 4 columns after these first 3 that have given me freedom from self. Freedom from the prison that I built for myself. Now, some of you know me very, very well, and you know that I don't always act quite right. But at least I have a discovery process to know why I don't always act quite right. But if I tuck tail and I run from my truth, it's still going to be my truth no matter what. So when I have a process that helps me through this, amazing things happen in my life. We won't get into it till next week, but I'll touch on it right now. At the bottom of page 66, it says something to the effect that we realized perhaps the world and its people were sick like us. Or were perhaps spiritually sick, I think is what it actually says. And it goes on to lead us into the sick man prayer, or as we call it, the 4-step prayer. God, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? So here's something that I have come to believe and understand in my life. It is literally impossible for me to be resentful and helpful to a person simultaneously. It's impossible. So I'm either going to continue to carry the resentment, or this idea plants the idea of the seed of forgiveness in my heart, because I'd much rather be helpful. And then there's another prayer. It says, God save me from being angry. And that too instills the idea of forgiveness in my heart. Because of Rick Walsh, coming this August, this group will have been doing a 4-step workshop every other month for the last 3 years. Rick blessed us by giving us the materials and the foundation. Everything that we do is exactly right out of the pages that we are reading here through the next few weeks. And we've tried to simplify it. It's in a slideshow because we're so visual. Please come and join us. We can all always learn how to be more effective in the inventory work that we do. The longer we are here in Alcoholics Anonymous, the more effective in our inventory work we should become, because hopefully it's something that we are practicing regularly. And if you have a sponsee that you need to take through this work, then maybe, just maybe, come and it will help give you some tools to help the sponsee through the work. Here's what I know. When it came time to do my 4th step, my sponsor didn't hang me out to dry, flapping in the breeze on the flagpole. When I had questions, I called him and he answered the questions, and it helped me through. I didn't have to be stuck. No one has to be stuck in this work. It is a pathway to healing, but I don't have a pathway to healing unless I know what I'm trying to heal from. In the first 3 columns of this 4th step, I played the victim. When I started looking at the other columns, and writing down my part, I began to be the overcomer. And it's through overcoming that I've been able to heal. Thank you so much. I love you all. Look forward to the rest of the journey.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, thank you everyone for being here this evening. We are going to close out. And before we do that, I'd like to read this from page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we only know a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. And so we can't be together to hold hands. We have a special way of closing out here in Primary Purpose. And we can't hold hands, so we hold our hands up to the video. And before we say the Lord's Prayer, if we could have a moment of silence for those still sick and suffering in and outside of our rooms. Who brings us from shame to grace if we let Him? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Zane. Good to see you, my friend.